For years, global retailer Steinhoff was one of South Africa's investment darlings. With 40 brands under its belt and operating in 30 countries, investing in the company seemed a clear winner. But in December 2017, Steinhoff's auditors refused to sign off on the audited financials as a result of suspected accounting fraud by hiding bad debts and inflating company value. CEO Marcus Jooste resigned. Shares plummeted with 300 billion rands in share value lost. It all came tumbling down like a house of cards. The Steinhoff debacle lifted the lid on shady goings-on in corporate South Africa, but who needs to be held accountable? The board, the former CEO Marcus Jooste, fund managers, or the auditors? But who wouldn't buy into the Steinhoff success story? After all, billionaire businessman Christo Wiese was at the helm as chairman of the board. There were 4 chartered accountants in the executive and, of course, business 𝗀𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀 CEO Marcus Jooste.
Steinhoff was a good company, it was profit-making, and it was liquid.
Based on Steinhoff's market credentials, Piet Retief bought shares in the company to invest for retirement.
I never ever thought that anything could go wrong with Steinhoff. With such a wonderful chairman and these best Afrikaner directors, I never thought anything could go wrong.
When the bubble burst, now ex-chairman Wiese claimed that the news came as a total shock. He told a parliamentary committee that it was a total bolt from the blue and that he never suspected anything. But global fund manager 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀 says that's hard to believe. Wiese wasn't just any old director. He was a highly paid non-executive chairman who appeared to have close links with the company.
There's no way you could say he didn't know. The board has a responsibility to hold the executive accountable. I think the challenge we have now is that the board became too cozy with the executive.
So who better to ask if he knew or didn't know or even suspected anything than Christo Wiese himself?
Why on earth would somebody, if he is aware of things that are rotten, why would he put the money that it worked for 53 years, 59 billion rand, why would he put it to achieve what? I mean, I could put my money anywhere. Why would I choose to put it into what I know is a rotten barrel of apples? Why would anybody do that unless you're insane?
So there were no warning signs, nothing?
Not a sausage.
No funny business?
Nothing.
Nothing that made you call Marcus up and say, listen, I'm a little bit worried about this? Or
nothing.
Do you feel silly now?
Well, yes and no. Yeah, you know, the difficulty is, Devin, I've said this before, there is no way in the world that one can build large businesses if you do not trust people. Nobody ever suggested anything in Steinhoff that would be pushing the envelope, legally, regulatory, whatever.
Again, 𝗀𝗀𝗏 disagrees. He personally raised concerns about irregularities as early as February 2017, stating that the matter has been floating around since 2015.
I wrote to Christo Wiese.
You chairman of the board at the time?
Yes. It took him 3 months to respond. And his response was, I'd prefer that we meet in person and discuss these issues. And then we arranged a flight to Cape Town to go meet with him. And we were told that he's not able to meet with us.
So this is a letter that was written to you by the Benguela Global Fund Managers.
Well aware of it. They must put their point. They must come to the shareholders meeting and a general meeting of shareholders, because you must remember, it's not one person's view that counts. There's a body of shareholders.
One of the big questions remaining on the minds of shareholders, regulators and government officials is whether the board acted negligently. Should they all be held liable?
This company was at a time, 1 December last year, 1 December 2017, sitting at a market capitalization. So that's the value of the company broadly, of 240 billion rand. Today, it's sitting at about 13 billion. So that's roughly, what, about 220 billion in value lost, double what the Guptas allegedly took from this country.
James Brent Steyn is the author of Steinhoff, Inside South Africa's Biggest Corporate Crash.
The government employee pension fund lost 20 billion. Those are teachers, nurses, policemen, and politicians, which is probably why Parliament's had 2 hearings already.
The brunt will be felt by ordinary South Africans who trusted that their monthly pension contributions and investments were in safe hands. So how could this happen? After all, 𝗀𝗶𝘀𝗀𝘆 was the man with the Midas touch. What could go wrong?
I looked at the liquidity of the Steinhoff shares and thought that's a good deal. And obviously strongly influenced by the fact that here was this man running this big corporation, Steinhoff.
So explain to me, how did everybody drop the ball?
Well, you know, it's difficult and not so difficult. Fraud, and you know, everybody who's in business will tell you that, is an extremely difficult thing to detect in a business that operates in 30 countries, employing hundreds of thousands of people. But it becomes almost impossible when the people at the top, your top management, if they are committing fraud, it becomes virtually, and smart, it becomes virtually impossible.
Since his resignation in December 2017, 𝗀𝗀𝘀𝗀𝘆 has not been available for comment on any of the allegations of wrongdoing.
This company was a darling, it really was. And, you know, if you look at the numbers, you look at how the share price was growing, and that's, I suppose, was the cardinal sin. The people were just happy to stick around while this company's numbers were so good, and they were signed off by reputable people.
But like 𝗀𝗁𝗂𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, James believes that the warning signs were there, but ignored.
Many of the warning signs that I've highlighted and that I highlight in the book, I asked them, what about these warning signs? What the heck was happening here? And they told me, you know what, those were the first items on the agenda of our board meetings.
So even when there were all those rumors that Steinhoff was paying too little tax, that whole issue of the corporate tax, that the company was inflating earnings and obscuring the losses, all of that, the investigations were done, which is the reason why you said that it was devoid of any truth.
It was devoid of any truth in terms of all the information that the board got from very highly paid forensic investigators.
But many believe that a broken corporate governance structure was at the core of the disaster, and by ignoring the warning signs, the executive failed to protect shareholders.
Who was the biggest shareholder, Debbie?
You.
Would I be inclined to protect myself?
I would like to think so.
I think, you know, when you've worked as hard for what you've put together as I have, you certainly leave no stone unturned to protect your interest. If you protect your shareholding, then per definition you protect the shareholding of the other shareholders.
So is Christo Wiese just another victim?
I definitely don't think he's a victim. I think he may not have been actively involved in the fraud, but I think his desire, his self-interest, is what led to this disaster. All he focused on was externalizing his assets, so he's not a victim.
I'm not being insensitive when I say to you, with great respect, Dr. Wiese, that I find it difficult, though, to feel sorry for you, because you still have a couple of billion left.
Debbie,
when I think about other people in South Africa who have nothing left.
Absolutely. I don't blame you for saying that, and let me immediately assure you, the last thing I want is for people to feel sorry for me. You know, it's in a way demeaning.
What would you like to say to South Africans who are watching this program? Are you sorry for whatever happened? Clearly, I'm sorry that I was in effect dragged into something that has done huge harm to a reputation that I spent my life building, that it has hurt people,
not only financially. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry for the damage that is done.
But is saying sorry enough for those who have lost their pensions and life savings?
In total, I lost quite a few million from Steinhoff, which is really a lot of money, hard-earned money that my wife and I worked for in our various businesses throughout the 50 years of being an entrepreneur.